What's up, everybody? We're here to go over UFC. I guess we're going to call it UFC Singapore. Max Holloway versus the Korean Zombie. But real quick, we're going to go over the results for last week. Wasn't a good. It was good as far as my picks went. I think I picked all but two of the fights right, and I got a few bets that hit, but my big play, which was on Hakeem Dawodu, didn't hit, which I found quite ridiculous because I thought he clearly won the first two rounds. And even Cub Swanson said after the fight that he thought he was down 2 rounds. Um, you know, Dawodu had busted his nose. Cub was bleeding everywhere in the first round, the second round. Cub did win the third round, I would say. But, it happens. I don't normally put 3 unit plays out there very much. I usually do like 1 or 2 units. And had I done, a 1 unit play, I still would have came out with some money. Or had I done like a 2 unit play, I would have pretty much broke even. So it was on me for putting that big of a bet out there, especially on Dawodu because he does have a tendency to go to a decision, and he does have a tendency to make close fights sometimes. So I should have known that, and only got myself to blame for that. But my other play on the card was a 2-man parlay that was Martin Bidet and Khalil Roundtree. It was a plus 121. That was a 1 unit play, so I got a little over like a unit and a quarter back of what I lost on Dawodu. And then I had this play that I posted the day before the fights. It was a 2 prop parlay that was JP Bays and Marcus McGee under 2.5. And then I matched that with Khalil Roundtree by TKO or decision, and that gave me plus 112. It was a half unit, so made back some of my money there. I also had a parlay that I when it came down to it, I was on this parlay here, and all I had left on this parlay was Hakeem Dawodu, and then I had my play on Hakeem Dawodu coming up, so I didn't want to risk losing both, so I cashed out the smaller one. Of course, probably should have just cashed out my money back on Dawodu, but I cashed this one out early. All of these people hit on here, I think, except for Dawodu. I cashed it out right before the Dawodu fight. There's a plus. I don't remember what the odds were on it, but it was $533 parlay, and I think I had like $70 on it or something like that. So in the end, I ended up losing maybe a little under a unit. I didn't do too much live betting on this card like I normally do. Usually, if I have a bad night, I can usually make it back and still make some money, in the live betting or whatever. But I didn't have too much of that going on in this card. Dawodu was the co-main event, so I was pretty sure I was good. I thought he was going to for sure win that fight, and got screwed on the decision. It happens. So should have picked somebody else, man. There were a lot of good spots on that card, that were easy money. And like Luana Santos, I should have loaded up a play on her, man. I don't usually like betting on women's fights, but I mean, we all know how Juliana Miller looked in her last fight, and we kind of knew that she didn't look like she was, UFC level, and that she was still kind of learning. So I mean, I should have just went with that narrative and put money on Santos, but whatever. And then I had the underdog pick of AJ Dobson. I could have put some money on that. Just wasn't super confident in it. And I guess you could consider that one a close fight, but it was a plus money play, so that was a good one of the underdog. I think that might have been the only underdog on the card that I picked, and he won. So, but anyways, man, let's get back over to the UFC Singapore, Holloway versus Korean Zombie. And this is a full card, man. Well, almost full, 13 fights, and yeah, there's a lot of good fights on this card, and there's a lot of fights that I'm not super confident in a lot of these. Some of these fights are, could be pretty close, and or we just don't know what we're getting, or stuff like that, or like the Chidi Njokuani and Michael Ozachek fight. That could go either way. These are two good strikers. Get a lot of knockouts. it's hard to be confident in a lot of these picks, man. And the ones that we are super confident on, um, they're minus 800 or this just huge ridiculous line like Max Holloway. He's obviously the lock of the card, but good luck trying to make a lot of money on it. But so what else, man? I got a lot of people's picks in for the contest for the Sterling and O'Malley card this weekend. So I'm gonna go ahead and not do the contest. Still, we're gonna wait and see what happens with that. There are actually a lot of people that are trying to win this time, so I'm happy with that. And I just as y'all do that, I screenshot y'all's picks, and so I know which order they all came in, and whoever picked the right three first will get the win, man. And it's looking like somebody might get it this week, man. A lot of good picks on there, man. And so yeah, man. If you're not familiar with the show, I go through, I give out all my picks for every card, for all the card, and then I give out my bets at the end of the card. If you're not interested in watching my videos, you can go over to my social medias, Instagram and TikTok or highkick_fight picks. There's a Facebook group, High Kick Fight Picks on there, easy to find. I post all my bets and everything on there, my flyers and all that stuff. So, and feel free to in the Facebook group, feel free to post all your bets in there and stuff. I like to see what other people put in too. I get ideas from it. So, what else, man? What else? I know I haven't done it in a while, but I used to do this every episode. But I did an interview with Chris Lights Out Lytle when I first started this channel, and it didn't get a lot of views or anything. I might repost it or something because it's a very interesting interview, man. From a legend, from a guy who fought, back in the early days and stuff. And he has a show on YouTube that's the Lights Out podcast where he talks with all these legends of the sport and everything and talks about their careers. And it's a really interesting show, man. And yeah, go check it out, man. I don't get paid for that. It's just a good show that I enjoy, and I used to say it every time, and I keep forgetting. But yeah, I consider Chris a friend, man. He was nice enough to do an interview with me. It's my first interview, so yeah, show him some support, man, and check it out. Y'all know he commentates on the BKFC now and stuff, and um, yeah, please go check out his show, man. And what else? So I guess let's get into this card, man. First up, we got Sungwoo Choi taking on Jarno Errens. And Choi is 30 years old, 6 foot tall with a 74.5-inch reach. He is 10-6 and 3-5 in the UFC. He's a minus 225 favorite here. And I find that kind of crazy, man. I know everybody was high on Choi for a while, but he's lost 3 in a row now, and we've seen him get knocked out, his last time out, and rocked multiple times in his last few fights, and submitted in his fight with Alex Caceres. And yeah, he just hasn't looked good lately, man. And I know he was landing some good shots, when in the Mike Trezano fight and everything before he got finished. But he was going in there, running into big shots, man. It wasn't a good look with the striking defense. He's got 6 wins by knockout, no wins by submission. He has been submitted twice. He's been fighting decent competition, though. I mean, I'm sure the UFC thinks they're giving him a favorable matchup here. And I've seen some guys, on Tapology jumping on errands pretty hard. Choi's going to have a 1.5-inch reach advantage. He's a good kickboxer. He's powerful. His fights are always exciting to watch. And, he was really loading up a lot in his last fight and really telegraphing all of his shots. Therefore, he was able to be countered pretty easily. He relies a lot on that big left hook, man, and he puts a lot into that, and he really shows when he's going to throw it. He's tall and rangy for featherweight, man. He gets a little wild at times, especially when he hurts his opponents, but he's always live for a knockout. And this has been a really tough fight for me to make a decision on. He's taking on Jarno Errens. He is 28 years old, 5'11", with a 73-inch reach. He is 13-4-1 and 0-1 in the UFC, and he's a plus 190 underdog. Yeah, he's a judo black belt. He made his debut against a very talented kickboxer. What was it, William Gomes, I think? Yeah, William Gomes. And, lost the decision there. He had a few moments in that fight. He did rock Gomes at one point. He has 3 wins by knockout, 5 by submission. He has really good striking defense. He covers up well, nice judo throws, good Dutch kickboxer. I watched a video of him fighting in a field somewhere on YouTube in the grass, just beating some dude up. I don't know if that actually counts towards his record or not, but they tried to do it as professional as they possibly could for the video. I know he didn't look good against Gomes in his last fight, but he didn't really get hurt at all or anything. He was covering up well, man. He just wasn't landing the volume, and he didn't get hurt or anything in that fight. So at least that's impressive. Um, he's never been knocked out, so I don't think Choi's going to get a finish here. It's hard to find a whole lot of tape on Errens, man, and I did find 3 or 4 fights. It's very hard for me to get behind Choi at this price, man, when he's lost 3 times in a row and has been getting dropped and is rocked repeatedly in his last few fights. And I do think Choi does have a striking advantage, but I think if Jarno hits him, he'll drop him. And Jarno's going to be coming in on full camp this time, ready to go. Not like his last fight coming in on short notice. Um, and I don't know, man. This has been a tough pick for me. I guess I'd rather, as far as a betting standpoint, that's how I do my show. I don't just go through and pick, necessarily who I think's going to win, especially if I think the underdog has a chance and there's more value on that. So that's what I'm saying when I make these decisions like this. I'd rather risk the plus money on Jarno Errens in my big parlays than a big price on a guy who's lost 3 times in a row now. And I'm not very confident in this pick. I won't get heavily invested in it. I might. There's a lot of underdogs on this card that I like. I might make like an underdog parlay or something. No Choi is very good, but his chin hasn't looked good at all lately, man. And I'm gonna pick Jarno Errens to win, say by a late knockout. Let's just say it that. But I'm not super confident in that. Next up, we got Yusaka Kinoshita, sorry, versus Billy Golf. Struggling with that name for a minute. Sorry, they moved all the fights around, so I gotta pull my notes up on this fight. So Kinoshita is 23 years old, 6 foot tall with a 71.5 inch reach. He is 6-2 and 0-1 in the UFC, and he's a -150 favorite. He had an impressive knockout on the Contender Series, man. But in his debut, he got destroyed by Adam Fugit, and a lot of people don't think highly of Adam Fugit. I don't think he's as bad as everybody tries to make him seem. I think Mike Mallet is a very talented fighter, and he destroyed Fugit. But he got out grappled in his fight with Fugit, and it wasn't a good look at all, man. He has 4 wins by knockout, 2 by submission. He's not very experienced at all, man, and I think that's really what showed in his last fight. Fugit was able to take him down, and once he had him down, he was able to easily control him and beat him and finish him via ground and pound. He does have big power in his hands. I find it crazy that he's a favorite, right now. I mean, I feel like this fight should be more of like a pick 'em. Kinoshita pushes forward constantly. He rushes in a little too much, something that he can't really keep doing at a high level of competition. Most of his wins have been quick finishes, so I worry about his cardio. This is probably going to be his toughest fight yet, in my opinion, because Billy Goff doesn't go away, and like I said, I think this should be more of a pick 'em. Kinoshita's fighting close to home here. It should be a very exciting fight. He's taking on Billy Goff. He's 25 years old, 5'10", with a 72.5 inch reach. He is 8-2, and this is going to be his UFC debut. And he's a plus 130 underdog. He's got 6 wins by knockout, and he will have a 1 inch reach advantage. He had a couple of wins in Bellator, actually, which is surprising because I watched Bellator, and I guess I forgot that he had fought there, or maybe I just missed it or something. He's on a 6-fight win streak with 5 of those being finishes. He pressure fights. He's always walking his opponents down. Very vicious elbows. I saw him cut a guy up so bad that he had to tap out in one of his fights. No wins by submission. He got dropped by a head kick in his last fight on the Contender Series. And, he came back and got the win, man, but he did get rocked a few times, get hurt quite a bit, and, so I know he was disappointed with his performance there, even though he came out and got the knockout. He fights very well in the clinch. He's very tough, man. He takes a beating and keeps on coming. He reminds me a lot of Trevor Peek as far as like how he fights, and how he gets hurt and keeps coming and all that. He might be a little bit more well-rounded than Trevor Peek is, but I think Goff has the option for the takedowns if he needs them. Kinoshita may be a better striker, but can he put someone that's as tough as Goff away? I don't know. I really struggle with this fight as well, man. And Goff has had a year off to work on his game. If I was confident that Goff would go out there and fight smart and wear on Kinoshita up against the cage and slow him down, this would be a lot easier pick for me because I do want to pick Goff. Um, But anything could happen here, man. And I do know that Kinoshita is no joke on the feet, and that's where golf likes to keep it. And I do think Kinoshita is the better striker. Um, man, because if I'm picking golf, I'm picking him based on the fact that he's just a really tough guy, man, that gets hurt, and comes back. And so at some point he's going to get hurt, and I'll be able to come back from that. And and I really want to pick golf. I really do. Still haven't quite decided on some of these guys. Originally, I thought I was going to go with Goff, then I thought I was going to change it to Kinoshita because of how good he is. But man, kind of want to go with the plus money. That's what I normally do in these situations. But Kinoshita's striking is very clean, man. Very good striker. He beat up a guy that was way bigger than him on the Contender Series. I guess I'm going to pick. Man, everybody on Tapology is going with Goff, but Kinoshita is the favorite. I'm going to pick Kinoshita. Yeah. Just because Goff has the tendency to get hurt. But if it gets out of the first round, I think Billy Goff will probably take over. But I want Goff to win. This is not something I would get heavily invested in either. Just maybe on my big parlays. And you're going to be hearing me pause a lot on some of these because some of these I still fucking am going back and forth with myself on. But yeah, man, it's like 114 degrees down here, man, in Texas right now. And yeah, this YouTube channel stuff, man, is it's a lot of work, man. Especially working like 50 hours a week at my job, man, and it's there's no time off at all now because I have to come home and immediately, study all the fights, take notes, go over everything, memorize stuff, all that. It's like I get like one day off a week where I get to relax. And especially since I post all my videos way before everybody else. I am sorry that I'm a day late this week, guys. I usually do it on Wednesday, but yeah. So I'm still before everybody else. So who cares? Next up, we got Toshishimo Kazama taking on Garrett Armfield. Kazama is 26 years old. He is 5'7" with a 69-inch reach. He is 10-3 and sorry, 10-3 and 0-1 in the UFC. He's a plus 135 underdog. This guy's a good grappler with very tricky submissions. 5 wins by submission, 3 wins by knockout on his record. And I thought in his last fight that if he had fought smart and he had a shot to win his last fight against the Nakamura guy. But he went out there and he did the one thing that he shouldn't have done, and he went out there and he brawled with a guy who knocks everybody out. So it was a really dumb decision. He's obviously not the brightest crown in the box. Kazama's never been submitted. He beat a very experienced fighter on Road to UFC, a guy that had like a 25 wins on his record. So he has nice trips, very creative on the ground, jiu-jitsu brown belt, good top control, takes guys down, triangles the legs from top position, traps the arm behind the back like the Dagestani guys do. Which is what he should have done in his last fight. But anyway, let that one go, I guess. So he pushes a really tough pace, very dangerous off of his back. A lot of people are going with Armfield here. I'm not really sure why everybody's so confident in him. You have to consider that where the fights are taking place here, the UFC wants these Asian prospects to win here. They're trying to give them favorable fights, and at least that's how I think they do it. It's kind of like how all the Canadian fighters won in Canada. Nobody expected that. A lot of big favorites lost. Kazama has a very weird style, but he is more experienced than Armfield. This is a fight where it could probably go either way, man. And the only thing I can say about Kazama is sometimes he is a little too comfortable pulling guard and working for submissions off of his back, especially when he doesn't have to. He was doing that on the Road to UFC fight, but he still got the win. And he's taking on Garrett Armfield. He is 26 years old, 5'6" with a 70-inch reach, and he is 8-3 and 0-1 in the UFC, and he's a minus 155 favorite. And he made his debut up a weight class against David Onama and got handled pretty easily. He did land a few good shots in the first round. He's got nice boxing. That's his best thing. There's some pretty clean knockouts I watched on the regional scene. He's got 5 wins by knockout, 2 by submission. He has been submitted 2 times. David Onama submitted him. So that's something to think about since, Kazama's specialty is his submissions and his grappling. I like Garrett striking. He has the advantage there in this fight. I mean, he's very powerful. All of his wins except one have been pretty early finishes. If you go back to his fight with Matt Vogel, um, uh, Matt Vogel, Garrett was dominating that fight early and ended up getting submitted after he tired, in the second round by a guy who, in my opinion, isn't as good as Kazama. Um, really torn on this fight, man. But I think it's just because Armfield is a big favorite on Tapology, and my brain tells me to take Kazama because, not only because of the grappling advantage, but because it's a better price as well. Him being the underdog. I do feel like it go either way, man. Um, I do like taking a dog in that situation, and usually it's better to go with the better grappler. But we don't know if he's going to go out there and make a dumb decision, and not go for takedowns and try to brawl again. Um, man, I think I'm going to take Kazama to win by submission, round a late submission, round three. Think he'll fight smart this time. Next up, we got Na Lang taking on JJ Aldrich. Um, this is a fight where I'm kind of like, why? Uh, don't understand. JJ Aldrich was like way up, going way up in the division at one point before her last two losses. And Na Ling has never won a fight in the UFC. So Liang is 27 years old, 5'5", with a 67 and we'll say a 67.5 inch reach. It says 67.3. She is 19-6 and 0-2 in the UFC. She's a plus 425 underdog. Yeah, she's been knocked out twice in a row now. Just hasn't looked good at all. But if you look at her regional scene record, all her wins have been by finish: 6 knockouts, 11 submissions. She's been submitted a few times, knocked out 3 times. So there is that to think about. Is this one of those cases where she had a rough start to her career and then gets her feet underneath her and shows how she got all those finishes before the UFC? Um, I don't think that's going to be the case, but I wish it was because I'm really sick of seeing these huge prices on these women's fights that end up epically failing. I mean, Aldrich was a big favorite against both of her last fights, I believe. Blanchfield. No, she wasn't a favorite against Blanchfield, but she was a favorite against Lipsky, and didn't look good at all, man. These girls' reaches are pretty much the same. Ling showed she had some good top pressure and grappling in the Carnelosi fight. Um, Fight's really wild, man. She has nice body lock takedowns, dangerous off of her back. Her fights are always very fun to watch, but it's to her downfall the way she fights. She does tend to push a very tough pace and then slow down quite a bit. She was gassed before the end of the first round in her debut. I can't really say many other good things based on what we've seen because, she does seem to have good grappling skills and tricky submissions and stuff. But if she can't make it more than one round, then, what's the point? So, and she's taking on JJ Aldrich. She's 30 years old, 5'5", with a 67.5 inch reach. She is 11-6 and 7-5 in the UFC, and she's a minus 600 favorite. And yeah, I don't understand. I guess I understand in this fight why she's such a big favorite because Ling hasn't looked good. Um, but yeah, so Aldrich has had a couple knockout wins early in her career, but she's never won a fight by submission. Most of her wins have been by decision, especially in the UFC. I think they all have. Her takedown defense is pretty good. I don't think Ling's going to be able to take her down. Aldrich is the better striker between these two for sure. Aldrich is all around the better fighter, in my opinion, really. Aldrich has the better cardio. I don't think I have to say much more than that on this one. This is a pretty one-sided fight, in my opinion. I think most people would agree with that. So I'm going to take JJ to win by decision, just because she hasn't been getting any finishes. I know Liang's prone to getting finished, but JJ doesn't go after it that hard. So next up, we got Keon Song taking on Ronaldo Bedoya. And Keon Song is, sorry, 33 years old, 6 foot tall, with a 71.5 inch reach. Trains at Tiger Muay Thai. He is 19-7 and 4-3 in the UFC, and he's a plus 190 underdog. Yeah, this guy's a finisher. He's either getting the finish or getting finished. It's fun to watch. He has 9 wins by knockout, 8 wins by submission. Has nice kickboxing. I mean, he's the only fighter up to this point, unless Neil Magny does something this weekend, that's hurt Ian Gary badly. In their fight, he dropped Gary and had him rocked. So I know he wound up getting finished, but it's still pretty impressive. He lost his last 2 fights by knockout. He's going to be fighting closer to home here, and he's going to be motivated, heavy hands. Just he couldn't get into range, in the Gary fight. He was having a lot of trouble with that, and he normally likes to pressure guys, So when he gets stuck on the outside, he has a lot of trouble with that, and that's what Gary did to him. He's going to be at quite a big reach disadvantage in this fight. A lot of his wins have been over guys who never won a fight in the UFC or have been cut from the promotion. Throws nice kicks to the body. What else? He's definitely fought the way tougher competition out of these two guys, so there's something there. On the feet, this fight could be close. Funny thing a lot of people don't know about Song is that he actually fought Adesanya back in the day and got knocked out. I don't know which weight class that was at, but that's crazy, right? And he's taking on Ronaldo Bedoya. He is 26 years old, 5'11", with a 75.2-inch reach, 14-2, and he is a minus 225 favorite. And he's 0-1 in the UFC, and he's gonna have a 4-inch reach advantage in this fight. And I gotta say, I was really impressed. He took the fight on short notice against Chaos Williams, and even though he lost, man, he was starting to pick up the pace at the end of the third round, and he was landing some good shots and voluming Chaos Williams. And that's crazy because Chaos is known to be a very heavy hitter, and none of his punches seem to bother Bedoya at all. And Bedoya has 4 wins by knockout, 3 by submission. He was on an 11-fight win streak before his last fight. Throws a lot of hard calf kicks. He counters very well. Fights really loose, man. And what I mean by that is he's very comfortable on the feet. He's not tense. He looks very comfortable on the feet. And he has great cardio. He doesn't load up. He doesn't overcommit on his shots. He rolls with punches very well. Really nice striking defense, man. And that really helped him out in the Chaos fight. I mean, he moves in and out of the pocket very well. He's very fast. He has a nice quick 1-2, man, that has some pop on it. I like a whole lot of what I've seen, man. And I think he has a very high ceiling. He's going to keep getting better, throughout his time in the UFC. And I'm definitely taking Bedoya to get the win here. Not a whole lot of finishes, man. I think this is going to be a fight that he wins by decision, unless he lands like a big head kick or something. I think he's going to stay on the outside and pick apart Song from the outside. So next up, we got Chidi Ninja Kawani taking on Michael Ozacek. And Chidi is 34 years old, 6'3", with an 80-inch reach. He is 22-9, and sorry, I gotta find this stuff on my notes. 22-9 and 2-2 in the UFC. He's a plus 100 underdog, and I swore the last time that Chidi fought that I would never put money on him again. He went out there and did nothing, and was somehow gassed out, after the first round. I mean, it was a really bad performance. And, now that that's out of the way, man, usually Chidi is a very exciting fighter. He's an amazing striker. He had some really impressive knockouts in his career. He's been around, he's been around a while, man, and through a lot of, organizations. He went 5-3 in Bellator. The Gregory Rodriguez fight, that was insane. He hit Rodriguez with everything he could, and, he couldn't put him away. He's very fast. He has an 80-inch reach, so he's definitely going to have like I guess it's a 6-inch reach advantage in this fight. So, just a really powerful, good kickboxer. Uses good front kicks up the middle. Very good with elbows, knees, and the clinch. He's good at using his length, man. He has 14 wins by knockout, 1 by submission. He fights out of Garland, Texas, which is like 40 minutes away from where I live. It's hard to count him out, man. If you watch all the tape on him, all the knockouts, it's really hard to count him out, especially when he's fighting a striker. But the game plan to beat him has been laid out for a long time. You go out there and you wrestle him for a while and you tire him out, then either keep wrestling, keep getting the takedowns, or then you start testing yourself on the feet once he's tired. But this is a very tricky fight, man. And he's taking on Mikhail Ozacek. He is 28 years old, 6 foot tall, 74-inch reach. He is 18-6 and 6-4-1, no contest in the UFC. And he's a minus 120 favorite. And I like the lines on this fight, man. It's good value, like, either way you choose to go with it. Both are powerful, good kickboxers. I think Olazechek is the more well-rounded of these two as far as his grappling and his wrestling is probably better. Even though that's not really how he fights, I would say his cardio is probably better as well. Um, as far as at least he can keep his cardio up, he can strike and push a tough pace for 3 rounds. We haven't got to see Chidi Ninjakwani do that in the UFC yet. Um, but yeah, if Olazechek is getting out wrestled, it does slow him down quite a bit too. We saw that in the Caio Baralo fight. Um, should be a very exciting fight while it lasts. He has 13 wins by knockout, 1 by submission. I would say that he's looked better since the move down to 185, but his wins haven't been over anybody really impressive yet. Sam Alvey and who was the other guy? Sam Alvey and Cody Brundage. Yeah, not really impressive wins there. He has been submitted a few times, but I don't think he's going to have to worry about that in this fight. Sometimes I wonder if Olazechek can make 170 because he doesn't seem to be, a very big 185er, even though he used to fight at 205. So he's got really good ground and pound from top position. He's used to fighting taller, bigger guys coming down from light heavyweight. He fights very wild at times. He's always moving forward. It's going to be a kickboxing match, man, and that being the case, it's hard for me to pick against Chitty. Macau has only been knocked out once. I think if he gets out of the first round, maybe he could take over, but maybe use his pressure, take over. But then again, man, as long as they aren't wrestling, Chitty's gas tank might hold up, So this is a very hard pick, man. I know a lot of people are going with Olazechek, but I do expect this to be a kickboxing match, and if that's the case, it does kind of favor Njokuani. I do believe he is the more technical striker out of the two of these guys. So even though I said I would never do it, I'm gonna give Chitty the chance here, man. I'm gonna take him to win by knockout, man. Take him to win by knockout round 1. Maybe he'll land one of those crazy elbows like he did on Gregory Rodriguez. Next up, we got Waldo Cortez Acosta taking on Lukas Breski. And Costa is hold on. He's 31 years old, 6'4" with a 78-inch reach. He is 9-1 and 2-1 in the UFC, and he's a minus 300 favorite. And I find this line to be really crazy. I've never been high on Costa, mainly because he's not a complete MMA fighter, in my opinion. He's a boxer. Comes from a boxing background. He doesn't check leg kicks, and all he does is throw punches, man. I mean, you can go back and watch the tape. He hasn't beaten anybody good. His 2 wins are over guys that are cut from the UFC, Chase Sherman and Jared Vandera. Tough guys nonetheless, but never really could get it going in the UFC. And that being said, Costa is a very good boxer. He usually has the speed advantage. He can push a good pace for 3 rounds. These guys' reaches are pretty much the same. Acosta throws a ton of volume for a heavyweight. 4 wins by knockout, 1 by submission. Hasn't gotten a finish in the UFC yet. He does go down to the body a lot to set up his head shots. Throws good combinations. Not much more to say, man. He is good on the feet, and I'll be interested in his last fight. He got beat by the leg kicks, man. He wasn't checking the leg kicks, and I do believe that could serve Breski very, very well in this fight. And Breski is 31 years old, 6'4" with a 78-inch reach. He is 8-3-1 and 0-2 in the UFC, and he's a plus 250 underdog. Now, I know he hasn't gotten a win in the UFC, but he arguably won the Martin Bidet fight. He landed a lot of punches in the first 2 rounds. He out-volumed Bidet for sure. He was just a little bit undersized for that fight, but a lot of people thought Breski won that fight. And, that's not an easy fight, and his next fight was against one of the better wrestlers that we have in the heavyweight division now, Carl Williams. Williams has taken everybody down that he's fought, so you can't really hate on him for that. Lucas has 5 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission, has a kickboxing background. His kicks are going to be a big thing for him in this fight, I believe. I don't think Acosta's used to people throwing head kicks at him. He uses his jab very well, throws good combinations. He's not very wild, man. He landed 60 strikes in the first round against Martin Bidet, which is pretty good for a heavyweight. And I think Breski is the more well-rounded fighter out of these two here, because at least he throws his kicks and stuff. Don't expect him to go for takedowns in this fight, but you never know. Acosta will have the speed advantage and probably more volume, but I don't like the price on Acosta, and I'm going to take Bresky. The price on Acosta is way too much in my opinion. If Bresky goes out there and beats up that leg and then goes high with his kicks, he may get a knockout. Once again, I'm not super confident, but I'm definitely going to take Bresky on this one. Next up, we got Junior Tafa taking on Parker Porter. This should be a fun one while it lasts. Tafa is 26 years old, 6'3" with a 72-inch reach. He is 4-1 and 0-1 in the UFC, and he's a minus 140 favorite. And he's only 4-1, but he's had a ton of kickboxing experience. He fought over in Glory for a very long time. He was a New Zealand national champion, kickboxing champion. Here are all the records that I could find for him. He's 2-0 in pro boxing. His kickboxing record is 28-5 with 23 knockouts, and his MMA record is 4-1 with 4 knockouts. Obviously, a very talented striker, great Muay Thai, heavy hands. He moves really well for a heavyweight. It was hard to find a lot of his MMA fights. Obviously, we saw in the Usman fight that he struggles with the takedowns a bit. I've been telling people to keep an eye on this guy for a while. When I first started this channel, I did an MMA news video that nobody watched. I stopped doing the MMA news videos, but and I talked about Junior, and that was before his fight in Ryzen that he had before he came to the UFC, and he went out there and knocked that guy out. It's a very impressive win. He's in a bit better shape than his brother Justin Tafa. He's a little bit taller and skinnier. And obviously his weaknesses are his takedown defense. And this is an easy fight to break down, man, because we know Tafa is better on the feet. He's taking on Parker Porter. He is 38 years old, 6 foot tall with a 75-inch reach, and he's 14-8 and 4-3 in the UFC, and he's a plus 120 underdog. He's got 5 wins by knockout, 4 by submission. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage in this fight. What it comes down to is, can Porter take Tafa down? We know he has no chance on the feet at all, and Porter doesn't necessarily have good wrestling. I think Tafa is gonna have worked on his takedown defense enough to be able to keep this on the feet against Porter, and I think he's gonna knock Porter out in round 1. Next up, we got Erin Blanchfield taking on Talia Santos. This is another one of those fights that I find very hard to decide on, man. And Erin Blanchfield is 24 years old, 5'4", with a 68-inch reach. She is 11-1 and 5-0 in the UFC, and she's a minus 135 favorite. She got 2 wins by knockout, 4 by submission. Her bread and butter is her wrestling and grappling. Her jiu-jitsu is very good. If you go back and break down all her opponents and how they look since she fought them, I wouldn't say the wins are super impressive. She kind of easily ran through a bunch of people that don't have any ground game, which has made her look very good. Don't get me wrong, but I guess there's not really a whole lot of tough competition in the division until you get up, to the point that she's at now. She's very good at what she does, man, and this is going to be her toughest opponent yet for sure. She has great trips and body lock takedowns. Her striking did look pretty good in the Andrade fight. Seems to have made a lot of improvements there. She was kind of just disregarding Andrade's power and just going in and throwing bombs. So I don't know if that's going to be the smartest decision in this fight. I'd like to see Blanchfield throw more kicks. She wasn't throwing enough kicks, in my opinion. And that's basically the lowdown on her, man. She's very good with her grappling and her submissions, but this is going to be a very tough test for her. And Santos is 30 years old, 5'6", with a 68-inch reach. She is 19-2 and 4-2 in the UFC, and she's a plus 115 underdog. And I don't know if anybody else agrees with this, but I thought Santos deserved a immediate rematch with Shevchenko, because it was a very close fight, and I could see that if there were different judges there that night, Santos might have got that decision, because she did control Shevchenko on the ground for pretty much 3 rounds of that fight. I was glad that Shevchenko won. I'm a big fan of hers, but I was impressed with Santos for sure. These girls' reaches are pretty much the same. Santos has 10 wins by knockout, 3 by submission. She can be a bit of a slow starter at times. She's a talented striker, but it was her grappling that impressed me in her last fight, in the title fight. She's very powerful, good Muay Thai. She's got 5-round cardio. She's been 5 rounds. She's going to be the bigger girl here. I think she's going to be the better striker in this matchup for sure. This is another hard fight, man. Like I said, I know everybody's going with Blanchfield. I guess because she beat Andrade, but Andrade's lost 3 times in a row now. So I don't find that to be as impressive as it was at the time. And Yeah, I'm going to take Santos, man. I'm going to take her to win by decision. Mainly because she's plus money and because she won a couple rounds against the former champ, one of the greatest women fighters of all time, Shevchenko. So I think people are kind of disregarding that about her and underestimating her. But could be a close fight for sure. Next up, we got Rina Nakamura taking on Fernie Garcia. And Nakamura, excuse me, I'll grab some water. This is a big favorite here. This is another lock on the card that's a giant favorite. Nakamura is 28 years old, 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. He is 7-0 and 1-0 in the UFC, and he's a minus 700 favorite. This guy has a Olympic freestyle wrestling background, if I remember correctly. All but one of his wins have been by finish, 5 knockouts and 1 submission. He's very powerful. This is my third time researching this guy. I did tape on him for the Road to UFC fights and stuff like that. His striking is pretty wild, man. He's a brawler. It's not pretty, but he always gets the win. He does look extremely wild out there, and he is extremely powerful for this weight class. He's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. Pushes a really tough pace. That I seriously doubt he could keep that up for more than a round. Even on the road to the UFC fight, man, he had won that fight quickly in the first round, but he looked gassed after that, and that's really the only bad thing I can say about him. He will definitely run into trouble when he runs into guys that can slow him down a bit and make it out of the first round. For what I can tell, the best plan to beat Nakamura would be to go out and clinch him up against the cage and wear on him for the first round, or try and get him down. But with his wrestling background, it might be pretty hard. Wear on him the first round, and maybe some of the pop will be off his shots and he'll slow down. But this isn't a wrestler he's taking on here, somebody that fights that way. So Garcia is 31 years old. He is 5'7" with a 67-inch reach. He is 10-3 and 0-2 in the UFC, and he's a plus 500 underdog. 1 win by knockout, 3 wins by submission. And Garcia has good boxing. I would say he has the better striking of these two because Nakamura is just really wild and just goes out there and throws everything until he lands. Garcia, he's powerful. He dropped Headstead in their fight, in the first round, but then he got out wrestled. And, it's not really a good look to use to Journey Newsom like he did either in his debut. I think that was his debut, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. Yeah, it wasn't a good look. I do think Garcia has some skills, man, that just quite haven't, fully developed yet. I think that if they had chose a better matchup for him, he might have been able to stay in the UFC and get a win in the UFC. But this matchup doesn't make sense for him. For me, he shouldn't be volunteering to fight a good wrestler that's one of his weaknesses. But his best shot is if he makes it out of the first round. Maybe he'll take over, man. He's never been finished, but Nakamura, has pretty much looked unstoppable. Could be a good live betting opportunity, man. Maybe if Garcia makes it through the first round, he can take over and beat a gassed out Nakamura. So watch for that. But I'm going to be taking Nakamura to get the win, knockout round 1. That's what he's been doing, and it's a lot of pressure to get through that first round, man. And nobody else has been able to do it. So I'm going to say he keeps doing what he does, man. Next up, this should be a very fun fight. Got Giga Chikazi taking on Alex Caceres, and sorry, I gotta find this on my notes. They moved this one around. Chikati is 35 years old, 6 foot tall with a 74-inch reach. He is 14-3 and 7-1 in the UFC, and he's a minus 230 favorite. He's an amazing kickboxer, very sharp striking, 9 wins by knockout, 1 by submission. His best wins have been over Jamal Emmers and Edson Barboza. Coming off the Calvin Kattar loss, man, it's been a year and a half since he's fought. And, I like that for him. He took the time off to work on what he needed to. He's only going to have a half-inch reach advantage in this fight. And he throws a ton of kicks, man. Likes to throw the calf kick, then go up with the teep kick to the chin. And, man, his kicks are one of his best weapons. His hands didn't really look very good in the Kattar fight. I know he's beaten some lower-level opponents, in the UFC, but his hands, Kattar was outboxing him, for sure. Throws nice long combinations, mixes in the kicks very well, likes to end his combinations with a kick. Uses his jab very well. We've seen that if you can get him down and wear on him, he slows down a lot. and he does struggle if you keep him on the back foot and keep walking him down, which is how Cater was able to take over. But you definitely can't stay in kicking range with Giga. You got to stay in his face, and I'm not sure if he will have to worry about being taken down in this fight. Caceres does like to keep it on the feet usually. Jakazi has 44 fights as a kickboxer. He's been active in combat sports for a long time, and he's 35 years old. So, how much can he improve at this point, in his career? And, because, the grappling isn't isn't very good, man. Once he starts getting up here with these guys that can take him down, I know Cater only took him down in the first round, but he did make it through 5 rounds of that fight. So he's taking on Alex Caceres. He's 35 years old, 5'10", with a 73.5-inch reach. He is 21-13 and 16-11 in the UFC, and he's a plus 176 underdog. Caceres has had a late resurgence in his career, man. Going 7-1 in his last 8 fights. He's gotten a few finishes in there as well, which is something he hadn't been doing for a while. He's got 4 wins by knockout, 7 by submission. He's made a lot of really good adjustments, man. The Julian Erosa knockout was amazing. He threw that left hand and came over with the head kick right behind it. He has really amazing balance the way he had to throw that kick. He's more experienced. He's fought a lot of really tough competition. He's the better grappler out of these two for sure, and he has better cardio, I would say. Caceres had a close fight with Sadiq Yusuf, which is very impressive because, Yusuf's on a tear right now, and it's a very close fight, man. And he did outland Sadiq in the first round or two, I think. Giga is 7-1 in the UFC, but most of those wins, except the 2 that I mentioned earlier, Jamal Emmers and Edson Barboza, aren't really all that impressive, So you got to think about that. And the same can be said for most of, Alex's fights as well. He's had the past few years. His best wins are his wins over Choi and Daniel Pineda. So, yeah, Caceres has a real shot at winning this fight, in my opinion. I think Giga has the better kicks out of these two, but I think Caceres might actually have the better hands, as well as the grappling advantage. So if Caceres can wear on Giga for a round and then go to work, he may win. Once again, another very hard one for me to pick. I could see it going either way, man. Caceres has been finding a way to pull these things out, and he's looked pretty good. I'm really arguing with myself because I don't like to jump on, big favorites like everybody else does. How is Chikadze going to look after being out a year and a half and coming back to a guy that's been extremely active, man? But will Caceres fight smart and try to get a takedown and try to use his grappling? It's that's the part, man. I really want to pick Caceres. I think if this does wind up being a kickboxing match, I think that favors Chikadze. So I'm gonna pick Giga Chikadze to get the win. Caceres, well, he has been knocked out a lot of times early on in his career, so I'll take Chikadze to get the win by second round TKO due to some sort of kick, one of those crazy kicks that he throws. I do really want to pick Caceres, and I'll probably make an underdog parlay and put him in it just in case, because I actually want to see him win this fight. I'd like to see him make a run to the top of the division, at this point in his career. Next up, we got the co-main event. Anthony Smith versus Ryan Spann 2. Anthony Smith he's 35 years old, 6'4", with a 76-inch reach. He is 36-18 and 11-8 in the UFC, and he's a plus 135 underdog. And that's surprising, man, since Smith won the first fight so dominantly against Ryan Spann. Smith has 18 wins by knockout, 15 by submission. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. He hasn't looked very good lately. He had that nasty leg injury in the Ankalaev fight. The fight had to get stopped. Then he just couldn't get anything going, in the Walker fight. I do believe Anthony is the more well-rounded fighter of these two as far as grappling and jiu-jitsu. Obviously, Smith is very powerful, all those finishes. He just wasn't as aggressive as he usually is, in the Walker fight. Maybe that's just because he was worrying about the big power, that Johnny Walker has. And, in order to win this fight, in my opinion, he's going to have to be extremely aggressive like he was in the first fight. against Span. It's like has Smith lost the lost the fire, man, the drive, that he used to have, or has it just been a little bit of slip up in his career, man, and didn't want to get knocked out, against Walker. And this is kind of the same, big, tall, good, powerful striker and Ryan Spann, but he has beat Ryan Spann before, so I mean I don't understand why everybody's counting Anthony Smith out. Um, if he's going to win, I expect him to try and get the fight to the ground at one point and clinch Span up against the cage for the first round, just to kind of wear on him, tire him out a bit. I think Anthony Smith has the better cardio, and then maybe go to work on the feet. Um, and we have seen Span submitted a few times. I believe that's how Anthony Smith won the first time. And Ryan Spann is 32 years old, 6'5", with an 81.5-inch reach. He is 21-8 and 7-3 in the UFC, and he's a minus 155 favorite. And he's going to have a 5.5-inch reach advantage, man. He's a big, tall guy. He has 6 wins by knockout, 12 wins by submission. Um, he makes a lot of mistakes, though. Like we saw in the Nikita Krylov fight. As soon as it goes to the ground, man, he does make a lot of mistakes with the submission defense. He is very good at fighting long. You got to, Smith's going to have to stay in Spann's face this whole time and pressure him so that he can't get off those big shots. Um, and I'm really struggling with this one too, but I'm going to go with Anthony Smith, man. I'm going to take him to win by submission again. I think he's not going to be scared of Ryan Spann. He's already beaten Ryan Spann before. I could be wrong. Spann did have a couple of good wins after that fight. The Ion Cutelaba fight, he sticks his head in the guillotine in every fight almost. And then the Dominic Reyes knockout, a lot of people have knocked him out, recently, unfortunately. But yeah, I'll take Anthony Smith to get the win by second round submission. Next up, we got the main event: Max Holloway versus the Korean Zombie. And Max Holloway is 31 years old, 5'11", with a 69-inch reach. He is 24-7 and 20-7 in the UFC. Almost his entire career has been in the UFC. He's a minus 825 favorite, 10 wins by knockout, and 2 wins by submission. Wait, is that right? I might have just remembered that wrong. Hold on, I gotta check now. Yeah, 10 wins by knockout, 2 by submission, 12 wins by decision. He's a legend, man, and I thought he arguably won the second Volkanovski fight, and I know he didn't look good in the third. Volkanovski clearly won the third fight, but he's one of the best, man. Nobody's been able to get past him except for Volkanovski, and Max's his volume and his boxing and everything is just some of the best you'll ever see. And he's very good at, even when he doesn't have the reach advantage, he somehow seems to make it as if he does, because he's hard to hit. He's got great head movement, good footwork, and he's fought all the tough people, man. He beat Arnold Allen. That was a very tough fighter, man. Arnold Allen is tough, and he beat Yair Rodriguez. That was a close fight. He beat Calvin Kattar, beat the crap out of Calvin Kattar. That was a crazy fight, man. And he's beaten all these tough people, man. He beat Jose Aldo, finished him, twice. So, I mean, I don't think, I don't think, I don't think the Korean Zombie is gonna, unfortunately, be able to get around this, around that and through that. But the Korean Zombie is 36 years old, 5'7", with a 72-inch reach. He is 17-7 and 7-4 in the UFC. Seems like he would have had more fights than that. Plus 575 underdog. He's got 6 wins by knockout, 8 wins by submission. He's gonna have a 3-inch reach advantage in this fight, man. But I don't see him having the advantage anywhere here. I don't think he'll be able to get Max Holloway down. He's not going to have any success on the feet. I'm a big fan of the Korean Zombie. I'd like to see him win a fight. I mean, I'm more of a Holloway fan, so I don't want to see him win this fight. But if we saw the way he looked in the title fight against Volkanovski, he didn't have a chance. And this is the kind of people that Holloway's used to fighting. People like Volkanovski, the toughest in the world. And I just don't think that the Korean Zombie is going to have a chance in this fight, man. And he's hard to put away. Max doesn't typically knock anybody out lately. It's been a while. Um, so I'm thinking it's probably gonna be just a 5 round, beat down with Holloway just boxing the Korean Zombie up the whole time, putting out a ton of volume. So I'm going to be taking Holloway to get the win by decision. Maybe he'll get a finish this one, and if he does, that'll put him right back up in the title contention. Um, but yeah, man, I definitely got to go with Holloway here. So that's all my picks, guys. And as far as my bets go, guys, single plays, I got to play on Junior Taffa minus 120. That's a 1 unit play. I got to play on Bedoya. I caught him early at minus 250. It's a 2 unit play. And I put a small underdog play on Talia Santos at plus 115. Just a little, it's actually less than a quarter unit, like $200. And then as far as my big parlays, sorry, I realized I forgot to make all these flyers, so I had to stop and go make them and come back. As far as my big parlays, so the first one, Nakamura, Tafa, Bedoya, Aldritz, Holloway. That's only at plus 242, which is horrible for that many fights on a parlay. And then to that, I added Chikatsi and Jarno Errens, and that's plus 1,349. And then to that one, all the same fighters, and then I added Kazama and Kinoshita, and that's plus 5,382. And then to that, I added Bretsky and Santos, and that's plus 41,154. Wouldn't it be nice if that one hits, man? I don't put too much on all these big parlays. I put a good bit on the top one, the plus 200 whatever one. And I did make a small underdog parlay of Aaron Santos and Bresky, and that's plus 2,210. And like I said, I only usually put like $50 on these big parlays like this. But yeah, man, that's it for me, guys. Thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for caring about what I have to say. Please like and subscribe, man. It would help me out a lot. Trying to get up to that 500 subscriber mark, man. That would be awesome. And yeah, man, I guess that's it for me, guys, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate all you guys, and I will talk to y'all later, man.